Thank you, Ryan. As Ryan said, we are the BetterReads team, formerly known as Reader. BetterReads allows you to have a centralized location to organize and track your books. BetterReads is also a great way to easily discover new books with personalized, tailored recommendations. Our team includes our team lead, Shruti, our lovely designer, Lynn Baxter, our iOS team, which compromises Jorge and myself, our web team, Thomas, Carl, and Aaron, and lastly, our data science team, Patrick, Jose, Michael, and Ryan. The BetterReads team was put in a unique situation because previously in Labs 21, the web app and data science model was already built. Now, in Labs 23, the stakeholder wanted an iOS application. So we had an interesting time collaborating with the web and data science teams since they were essentially ahead and we were just beginning. Luckily, our wonderful stakeholder, Elizabeth, gave us some great insight and good feedback on where to start. Jorge and I were excited to create the first native mobile application. We started by concluding what our foundational needs would be and then added features to align with the web app. I would like to now demonstrate what we have accomplished in the last 8 weeks. Since my good friend Kayla is an avid book reader, I will be logging in as her today. Right now, behind the scenes, BetterReads is gathering new recommendations for Kayla. As we come to the home screen, we are greeted with a personalized message and can view the recommendations based on what is currently popular and based on recommendations on Kayla's library. Speaking of her library, let's see what's in her library collection. Wow, she has a lot of books. Luckily, BetterReads makes it easy to organize all of them into shelves. Looks like she created some custom shelves for her book clubs and for her favorite books. Let's see what she is currently reading. Since Kayla has more free time lately, looks like she is reading more. I wonder what she's going to read next. This is a great list of books, but I'm not seeing the one I suggested to her last week. Let's search for it and add it. I'm going to search for A Whole New Mind by author Daniel H. Peake. Here it is. Let's learn more about it. Currently, it has a rating of 3.5 stars and is a New York Times bestseller. You can even read a sample by going to the Google Play Store here. Finally, let's add it to a reading list. Now that the book is in her to be read shelf, I'm sure Kayla can't wait to read it. As you can see, with BetterReads' convenient and mobile-friendly interface, tracking reading progress is easy. That is it for the iOS demonstration. I'm going to pass it off to my teammate, Carl, for the web demonstration.
So this is our landing page. We wanted to keep it simple because one of the most important things we thought was to get the user into the app. But when you get to the login page, you can log in through Facebook, Google, or through our database here. So I'm going to log in there. Come to the home screen. It's very similar to the iOS. We have our reading. So currently, theoretically, I'm reading this, and let's say I really enjoy it. Give it 4.5 stars, and up here, get a little notification saying that that was successful. Here's to be read, so you can put books, like Cece said, books that you want to be reading. You can also favorite them, so you add it there, same little success message for that. You can search for books. You can create new shelves. So let's say we want to create a shelf, demo shelf. So now when we go to our shelves, we have my books, favorites, which is the ones that we have favorited already, all of these that we've already seen. And down here, we have our demo shelf right here. Other than that, we have recommendations. So this is recommendations based on everything that's in your library here. So let's say we wanted to look into this book right here. It's going to give us the description of everything right here. It's going to give us other information like length of pages, the ISBN, stuff like that. And then recommendations based on this specific book, not based on the entire library. And then this is genres down here that this book pertains to. So when we first got the app, it was super miscalculated with the way that they formatted their code and their files. I mean, we took 3 or 4 days just figuring out what they meant. So we set our goal in the beginning to refactor everything. For example, this component right here, a book card, had 450 lines of code when we first started. We bumped that down to 67. And we did that throughout the entire app, which is why it doesn't look as much different as when we first got it. It's more of a functionality, a lot of testing, stuff like that, because there was no testing when we got it. The components were all super codependent on each other. So we wanted to fix that for the next developers, because that's kind of the whole process that we were going to here. For the front end, we use React with Redux for state management. With the back end, we use Express API with Postgres, and then we connected that to AWS and hosted it on Elastic Beanstalk.
Thanks, Carl and Cece. As demonstrated by the BetterReads iOS and web teams, one of the key features of BetterReads is to recommend new books to its users based on their prior reading history. So you've seen how it looks on the front end, but how does it work on the back end? When we were first onboarded to the BetterReads project, the data science team had inherited a mess of a code base, unnecessary feature branches, unlabeled pull requests, and unorganized GitHub repo structure. After investing a few days collecting our bearings and tidying things up, we learned that the prior data science team had a recommendation model, but nothing was deployed. Therefore, although we had a blank slate, at least we knew the general direction of where we wanted to go. So we planned out our steps in Notion to orient our team. We decided to embrace the opportunity to work with Docker and with 3 of Amazon Web Services' most popular microservices: Relational Database Service, or RDS, for hosting all of our book data, Route 53 for maintaining our web apps domain names, and Elastic Beanstalk for hosting our deployed backend recommendation APIs. And it was on Elastic Beanstalk where we deployed the recommendation model that the previous team had created, but they had not yet successfully deployed to a production environment. It's a collaborative filtering model that provides recommendations to the users based on the likes and dislikes of other users who are similar to them, which is largely how many social media sites and online shopping retailers make recommendations to their users. However, although this method provides excellent recommendations, it only received a 15% approval rating because the size of our dataset was so limited. If the user wanted to receive recommendations for a book that was not in our user ratings dataset from Kaggle, then they were left with dummy default recommendations. So we scraped data from hundreds of thousands of books from the Google Books API and used natural language processing to create an entirely new model that's based on book descriptions. We deployed both the first model and the second model because although this second model doesn't quite provide as accurate of recommendations as the first model, it does serve as an excellent fallback for when the user's book is not in the original dataset. This duo approach heightened our overall approval rating from 15% to 45%, resulting in a user experience that's 3 times greater than what the first model had provided. For our team's most recent model iteration during this project's timeline, we created a cosine similarity hybrid model, such as that of the world's great recommendation giants, such as Netflix and YouTube. So where did these approval values originate? The deep, dark world of tedious, manual, and time-consuming surveys. Although this process resulted in a surprising number of ultra-valuable insights into how we can improve our recommendation engine, we came to recently realize that there's a better way to automate the surveying process while simultaneously increasing the size of our user ratings database. Coming soon to an internet near you, BetterReads, Tinder for books. Labs 25, it's up to you to make it happen. Make us proud.
Wow, congratulations. So when this was a greenfield for iOS and a build on for web and data science, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, if I recall correctly, Labs 21 did a really good job at putting it into a place where you could log in and you could actually, add books to your reading to be read and read list. And then they had the star rating. You could review it and things like that with the little thing. But the recommendation engine, like Ryan mentioned, was not deployed. In fact, it just showed a bunch of Harry Potter books as a placeholder. And then there was nothing for iOS, and iOS in this short amount of time was able to achieve feature parity in an app that looks absolutely gorgeous. So I'm wondering, with coming into this is a question for CC and the iOS team. Coming into this, was it a little bit intimidating to start from scratch when you knew that like the data science and web team were potentially going to be so many features ahead of you?
Yes, it was very intimidating, especially since we had never really went through a labs experience before. We didn't know really what to expect. And knowing that we would possibly be seen as behind really stressed us out. At least for me, it did. And so I think taking that and fueling it more into motivation and, really getting to the features that, were absolutely necessary and really grinding on those to, fill those out. I think that's what really made this happen to get it done.
I'm muted. Sorry. So, and this is for everybody. Working with all three different stacks, all three different functions. What were some of the hurdles that y'all had to overcome, and how did these teams bond together to overcome those hurdles?
From the data science perspective, I thought it was really an interesting fact to learn that our users were not just the readers, but our users are also the web developers and the iOS developers. So we had to serve them in a way and just communicate greatly in determining like a universal way for that both those teams can agree on what type of files, what type of data, what format they wanted their data in, and just a lot of communication.
Carl, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I think that, honestly, the best example I can think of is like pictures on iOS and with web, they're very different. Like I know we have our mobile view and all of that, but like as far as the book cards went, like we had these small pictures and then, we needed bigger pictures and the iOS needed the same thing. So we were trying to collaborate to do that, but one thing would work with us that wouldn't work with them. And, we just had all these little, it's the tinier things that kind of throw a bigger thing off. I think I found is more confusing, but communication really just kind of helps it all. I mean, we were constantly on our channel, keeping in touch and everything like that. So I think that was super important to do for us to be able to do what we did.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. This is a product that, like I said, I'm actually using. I actually have an account. I don't know if you've cleaned out the user data. I haven't used it in a couple of weeks, but I actually do have an account in your system, and I've played around with it, and I can't wait to see what comes next and how we can get it deployed to the App Store and really start getting users and getting that feedback. I loved the addition of the toasts that you added on the website. When you create something or rate something, there's that little notification window that pops up, and just the animations that you put together, those tiny, like that minutia that really like goes to just make the app sweet. Just like a really unique experience is really fun. And again, the title, the play on words, the BetterReads. For those of you who don't know and haven't used the app Goodreads, it's got all this functionality, but with like a really mediocre user experience. And so what this team has done is like really cut down on all that fluff and focused on that user experience and created what I think is a better experience. And we'll, as we continue to add features to it, Elizabeth will be stoked. And no one reads more in my colleagues and my circles, no one reads more than Elizabeth. She's so well read and she reads everything all the time. So she's a great stakeholder to have because she's an amazing design mind. So that's awesome that you got a chance to work with her. So congrats teams. Thank you for collaborating, putting the whole demo together. It felt really cohesive as one big product, and that was really, really good. Really fun to see.